We've always been criminalized. There's so many black and brown people in prison for marijuana. It was a way to further harm us.
Minnesota has one of the largest racial disparities in marijuana possession arrests in the nation. The 2011 report showed that blacks were 6.4 times more likely to be arrested than their white counterparts, which is twice, double the national average. So when we look at this, we know that clearly something is looking different.
In Hennepin County as not connecting those two issues. Why people use drugs and what health services do they actually need. And then if you look at in Minneapolis, there's 20 items on their budget and the Minneapolis Health Department is 19 and the police department is 3 or 4. That shows where our priorities are.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children.
We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities.
It's clear from a quote by Lee Atwood that the war on drugs was a political maneuver to divide and conquer people. What the war on drugs has done is destroyed families and broken apart communities and led to money being taken away from health departments to be put into police enforcement.
By next year, our spending for drug law enforcement will have more than tripled from its 1981 levels.
I grew up in Chicago, born and raised during the war on drugs. All the stuff you see on television, all of the horrific cases of people being snatched away innocently, family members snatched away, bunch of drugs being dumped on us. So I got caught up in that. Started selling drugs, was 14. I see kids I went to school with making money. We were all broke. Now you got a car and it looked like you successful. I want to be successful too.
I'm a daughter of Rondo, so this is my community. And many of the challenges, especially that we faced at the peak on the war on drugs, just gave me some real everyday challenges. Our moms, our dads, our aunts and uncles, brothers and sisters were entering into those prison gates and returned back home with a permanent scarlet letter that read F for felon. So I decided to become an attorney so I could help fight for the rights of my people, because I felt the law always impacted them and it was like a foreign language to us. We didn't know how to navigate it, we couldn't translate it, but it was everywhere surrounding us. And in many ways, we felt powerless.
So Harry Anslinger is the director of the Bureau of Narcotics in 1934, and he put this quote, tying marijuana usage to blacks and Filipinos and them taking women away from white men. And it was within 3 years that they had passed the Marijuana Tax Act, which was like the first national act for taxes against marijuana.
Poverty, mental health, crooked cops, crooked political system, all of that, we grew up with that. And I fell into the trap. The
fact that we even use the term marijuana is also tied to trying to foreignize the word and tie it to people in Mexico. What is the actual impact? Why do we have these laws? What are we trying to do here? Are we trying to destroy communities of color and send people to jail for drug offenses?
A lot of people, let's just be real, man. A lot of people use drugs. People with amazing jobs, people with careers, but we've criminalized it so much that they can't just say, yeah, every now and then, I smoke a joint. They can't say that. So decriminalizing is saying, just because you don't agree with it, don't mean it's criminal. Don't stigmatize folks who flourish that way. If people are in prison for marijuana, the right thing to do is bring them home.
Marijuana policies impact communities of color because of two key things. Primarily, the challenges that we face are related to being at the intersection of race and poverty. So oftentimes, many of the challenges that we face is because we don't have the legal resources to have an attorney to help us fight for our rights or protect our rights. Oftentimes, the challenges are that our communities have a higher presence of policing. So that means we're more likely to come in contact with the criminal justice system. So marijuana is just one symptom of many of the challenges that we face as it relates to the criminal justice system.
And racism crazy, so I smoke like I stick in a hole.
Law enforcement was just never a resource for us where I grew up. We didn't have any kind of officer friendly. It wasn't no cops that we looked up to, admired, none of that. They were our oppressors.
Typically something starts with an interaction with the police out in the community.
My friend, he was driving, I'm in the passenger seat. I got marijuana on me. I just rolled up some marijuana. I had it sitting. My friend just came home from prison, so he can't say this is his. They come to the car, hey, we need y'all to get out the car. Possession of marijuana in a moving vehicle. Now, I'm trying to be responsible. I take the ticket, I go pay it. Once you pay it, your license is revoked. They criminalize marijuana if you're a person of color, but if you're white, like I know people who said they've been dropped off at home. I don't know that world. I'm glad the world can see what I've been seeing. George Floyd, that's not new to me, unfortunately.
Like a stick in a hole, broke past hunger master with his own rope.
When I think about Hennepin County, I don't know if I can say it's worse. It's like it's everywhere. All of it works the same. It's slavery, man. Like truthfully, that's just what it is. Like, you got to think, people are dying out here, skin color. So Hennepin County, child protection, parks and recs, all of that stuff is guilty. All of it has anti-blackness. All of it is rooted in white supremacy. Of course, any institution gonna get things wrong, but Hennepin County fails to be held accountable.
The most recent reports that we have are from 2011, that African Americans in Ramsey County were 8.8 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana possession. It's the highest disparity in the state. However, it's followed right behind Hennepin and Steele County. The fact should be, same conviction, same process, same outcomes for justice. And it should not be that every societal issue we have, that the criminal justice system is our only default. Can we build diversion programs? Can we build community sentencing circles? Are there other ways to address some of the challenges that we face as a society?
Out a little green, it's hard to get by. Do you have
The bail issue we see all across the nation. I mean, think about it. If you're sitting in secure detention and you can't make bail, you've lost your job. You may have even lost your home. You may have lost custody of your children. So there's a myriad of ramifications to this. And the reality of it is, let's be crystal clear. If you're at the stage of paying bail, what's happened? You haven't been convicted of a crime yet.
It's really based off, how much wealth you have. You just look at people with power get away with something because they got money and they got resources.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it. And didn't inhale and never tried it again.
When raising the question, how are people treated differently when it comes to the criminal justice system, we see it's everything from that first contact with law enforcement all the way up to the final disposition of a case. It looks remarkably different depending on the color of your skin and your zip code and where you came from. But the challenges around race and racism in America are persistent, ever-changing maybe in how they manifest. But overall, race is a social construct, that racism is operationalized through prejudice and power. Clearly, we see it in the criminal justice system.
Shortages of marijuana are now being reported. Last year alone, over 10,000 drug criminals were convicted, and nearly $250 million of their assets were seized by the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration.
When I went to prison, we all were black, and it was about 60 of us. And I'm looking at people, what? Man, how much time you got? 84 years? Oh my God. What, they give you 63? Oh, you got 40 months, 50? Blew my mind. If I could bring y'all to Shakopee prison with me, it'll break your heart. Young girls like y'all age, real talk, serving numbers.
I hope when we're talking about criminal justice, even the U.S. Supreme Court has talked about it as a civil disability because it limits access to everything from the ballot box to career development to access to opportunities, that economic ladder of the American dream. There are over 40,000 collateral sanctions that are just documented in that one database. So what that means is being convicted of a crime has far-reaching impacts.
Once you get a strike, then you watched, you can't vote, Jim Crow.
Was mad at it, but she had to recuperated by the bait.
Like, we can get through our differences. We can figure out our stuff. We don't need to call on a system that'll come and kill you.
We can look to the war on drugs, look at the policies, and we know that that did not create solutions. It created even further, more in-depth, more multifaceted challenges that people of color are still facing today. So I think a part of it is, of course, knowing our history, raising awareness, shifting the narrative in the court of public opinion in the justice system. People are not treated fairly. We have to go back and address the judicial system. If we know that certain people are being policed at a disproportionate rate, we have to go back and address policing. So it's a both and.
Miriam Kaba, she calls it a criminal punishment system. There's no justice. I got caught with drugs, I got caught with a gun. I'm wrong. Prison though?
Is the justice system just about those who have money and privilege? Or should it really focus on supporting those who are most vulnerable, those who have the greatest need, and creating responses to address the underlying issues that even brought them into this gateway of the tangled web of mass incarceration? It's time to reimagine, recreate a criminal justice system that's holistic, that builds strong families and safe communities. It's going to take all of us.